loves, welcome to Conscious Chats with Jess
and Susie.
where we have mind-expanding chats about this wild ride of life.
We'll be talking about embodiment, self-mastery, health and wellness, spirituality, and everything else between. Thank you for being here, and we hope you enjoy this episode. The sacred struggle.
Such a
What comes up for you when you say the sacred struggle?
straight in. The sacred struggle for me kind of highlights just like the humanness of this experience and kind of brings up the question of being like, is it the spirit having this human experience, or is it this human having a spiritual experience? It's like either way, you can't have one without the other. And I feel like for me, that's a big reason why we are here, like on this earth plane, is to be confronted with the struggle.
Yeah.
And embrace it, or learn, at least for me, what helps is like learning to embrace it as like, and this is for me. And I get to experience this. And when you're in the struggle, I'd rather not. Thank you, but no thank you. Like, but the more I realize like it's just part of life, the more I'm learning to kind of lean on the tools that allow me to have grace and less suffering and more ease in the struggle.
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting concept to kind of consider in the struggle, how much of the suffering is coming like from within. I don't know if that makes sense, or
Yeah, like, are you making the struggle more intense or harder? Is that what you mean? Because of what's going on inside, or because your relationship to it, or your judgment of it, or
yeah. For example, it's kind of a funny example, but I hate the cold. I used to hate the cold, or I even used to hate the rain and be like, oh, when it's raining, like that affects my mood. I don't like it. Like it's the worst. I just want it to be sunny. And of course, living on the Gold Coast, it was always sunny. So that didn't happen often. But when it did, it ruined my day. Or and it's recently that I've kind of been like, okay, I'm always asking my students to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Like these parts that I dislike or do everything to avoid, i.e. the cold, how can I practice what I preach? And my first ice bath, which I did, I hated it. I was like in there, I couldn't relax. I was like, oh my gosh, get me out, get me out, get me out. And in my mind, all I let play was these thoughts of like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. The second ice bath I did, same thing. The third one, after kind of doing them a little bit closer, I was like, okay, well, clearly this is a moment for me to be like present. Clearly, I know through the practices that my mind is very strong and powerful. It's like, is this narrative supporting me in this, or is it contributing to the get me out of here? Like, and it was. So one thing that I've been using in that particular scenario, because it is a controlled 2 minutes, but it still arises, is like my breath. Seeing my breath move the water up and down, seeing how deep I can move the breath. If the sun is out, like looking at the sun, or typically they're done on the beach, so like seeing the waves, and it's like, what elements can I connect to? How can I like it's almost like expand and soften into the senses of this experience so that I can relax into it, knowing that it'll end, like knowing that it won't last forever, because none of this lasts forever.
Yeah.
And then also appreciating the relief once I'm out, and the reward of having accomplished something, and also just noticing, oh, okay, like when I didn't tell myself I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, like when I was like, okay, I'm like getting many health and mental benefits from this, when I'm like, it did change the whole experience. And then I was getting more excited to get into the cold water, and over time I noticed how that helps me just when it is cold outside, because I'm like more equipped body. So that's like a small example.
Yeah, I love that example. I had a very similar journey / experience with the cold. The first time I ever did it, I was like, this is fucked. Why are we doing this? It was actually at a yoga teacher training, Essence of Living. Michelle had just bought a chest freezer, and I was like, you're insane. Like, why are you doing this to yourself, And I was just like sitting in there, and my bones hurt. I was like, fucking bones hurt. What is this? So much resistance. Yeah. And when you were speaking about like how much am I internally playing into this suffering, the words that came up were like resistance or surrender. When we're in resistance, it makes everything so much harder. And when we're in surrender, it's just like, okay, like for a moment, can I just let go of the control and yeah, that belief or that thought process. I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. Why is this happening? Yeah. And it's so much easier to talk about, theoretically, the theoretical struggle that someone else is experiencing, or seeing it from like the outside in. And then when you're in it, it fucking sucks. Like it's challenging. It's so hard. I'm in the sacred struggle right now, and I'm definitely not like, I mean, I don't think you can move through it perfectly, but like I was saying to you before, I'm slowly starting to soften into more surrender inside of the sacred struggle. And what was I going to say? I don't know. It's gone. Softening into it and seeing how much I can surrender. Oh yeah, that's right. And instead of having to change or shift or process the emotion, like how quickly can I remove this fear? How quickly can I, emotionally express so that I can get rid of this overwhelm, which is helpful. That's been a game changer in my life. And it doesn't just go away after one emotional release practice. And so like using those tools and knowing when they have their limit, and when we just need to love ourselves through the things anyway. Like, can I love myself in shame? Can I love myself in guilt? Can I love myself in overwhelm? Can I love myself in uncertainty? And not need to judge that or make it wrong, or think that I'm not empowered enough or not confident enough or not a good enough coach, which is, like I shared with you, what comes up for me sometimes. It's just love, right? It's like the power of love.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so important. Like, I don't know, I know people that, or the phrases that come to mind, like love is the answer and love is enough, but to like truly embody that and like honor that, especially in the times of struggle, like that's a whole different practice.
Yeah. Something that been, sorry, you go. Something I've been curiously exploring is my relationship to God or the divine source, spirit, love, the universe, life. I've always had a relation, well, not always, but for a long time, I've had a relationship to the universe or source, spirit, life. And recently, I've been feeling into a relationship with God, which to me, there's like, they're the same, but they're kind of different. I'm not entirely sure. Like, it's a new thing for me. So this isn't something that I have much experience articulating or even really feeling into, but I've been praying and writing letters to God and saying like I offer this all up. I surrender this to you. And when I feel myself in those moments of stress and overwhelm, like when the thought arises in my mind, like, what about this? How am I going to solve this? When this day comes, what can I do? What will I do? Reminding myself that the universe has this, life has this, love has this, God has this. And like letting myself release the pressure. It's the pressure of like, I'm holding this all by myself. This is just mine. This is only mine to carry and to hold. Yeah, I feel like having a relationship with a higher power allows you to drop some of that intensity, some of that pressure, and let yourself receive from this mysterious life where like synchronicities can happen and miracles can happen. Like I've experienced so many synchronicities and miracles in my life to know that they do happen. But when we're in these moments of the sacred struggle, it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget that things can align and fall into place, and they have every other moment of our lives up until this point they have. But it's easy to forget in those moments.
Yeah, I think having like a belief in something or someone greater than yourself can give you so much hope and faith, and something that definitely people lean on, especially in times of struggle. I often kind of see people that have led like such difficult lives and gone through so much sadness, and just loss. And they often have like, yeah, just a deep faith. When I see that struggle and then I still see them showing up in love, in it's almost like a devotion, or in this place of like, I'm okay. And I don't know, like sometimes I just think, how did that not destroy you, or like I think, how, if I was in that situation, how would I feel, how would I move through that? And when it is very tragic, I kind of think, oh, there's no, for me, would I be able to come back from that? And so yeah, I feel like part of that, giving it up to whether it is God or the universe or source, it's like, it's a reminder that you aren't alone in this chaotic, messy, random world. And it is really hard when you're in those moments of despair and like at the bottom of the pit. It's like sometimes, you're not able to hear this is for you and this is part of a bigger plan. Because you kind of think that can be the difficulty of being like, well, if God loves me, like, why is this happening? And my answer to that, as I understand it, is just like, we can't comprehend in our minds as our individual self, like the greater tapestry of life. Yeah.
Yeah, my partner says everything makes sense in hindsight. And it does. It's so easy to look back on previous struggles from this point now and see, well, that happened for a reason and that taught me that. And that was actually so necessary for me to do this. But when you're in it, you can't see that. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what the greater plan is. But can we remember every other time we've been through the sacred struggle that how it did line up and how it was for us? And then can we have that faith and trust that this time will be the same?
And can we make peace and fully accept and drop the resistance, knowing that we might not understand in this lifetime? Like, we might not ever reach that point of hindsight.
Yeah,
Here. Like, but is it going to continue to almost like, I see it as like a pooling of life force energy, you know, when it's important to feel all the waves of life and ride all the emotions. But then if we stay in one space, and especially when it's a heavy, heavy space, yeah, I do believe that then manifests in the body as disease, when when those emotions are stuck, when that energy is no longer moving and stagnant. Or if we then create this almost belief around, well, these kind of things always happen to me and life's always a struggle, and like, it's like it's hard to come out of that. But like, thank goodness we do. And then sometimes if it's really, really hard, I'm like, okay, everything passes, like nothing is lasting forever. It's all impermanent as well. So sometimes these little reminders as well help me in those moments if I am feeling really down, to be like, okay,
yeah.
I know it can't stay like this. And while I'm here, how can I drop that resistance? How can I it's almost like, as well, leaning back or beginning to kind of detach a little bit so you can get to observe and witness. I also sometimes find that practice helpful, of being like, and then that helps to like almost broaden the senses to be like, and is there something here for me? And if prayer is part of your practice and journaling, it's, or, you know, anything, asking to the divine or a higher power, it's like, show me the way, like, be kinder to me through this experience, please, because I'm really struggling. Or
Gentle. Can this be gentle now, please? Yeah.
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 Yeah. And what's here for me? Like, what am I missing that I am to receive from this medicine? And I think we've used that word medicine before in some of our chats somewhere. But it's much like the sacred struggle. It's like, yeah, it's all here for you. And can we remember in the moments where it's most important, which is the struggle? Because it's easy to be like, well, it's all for me when things are great and, you know, life's on track and you feel in alignment. But the real practice, the real grit, is in the struggle, when there doesn't seem like there's any light. Like, okay, if this is all for me, can I fully surrender into that and accept that and love myself through it and have compassion? The teacher who, I feel like I was going to say something else, but now something else has popped up. but she was like, there. I was coming to her at a time when I was in struggle, and she was like, you're trying, trying, trying. And she's like, stop trying. Like, what is this effort that you're putting in? Just allow yourself to be.
Yeah.
Just let it all go. Like, and in my mind, I was like, I can't let it all go. Like, what do you mean? Like, otherwise, what else am I meant to do? And I feel like she was just sort of saying, like, you're like, where's the pressure coming from? You know, like, um, what like part of that suffering that I was putting on myself. And also, I guess the other thing that comes to that, is, you know, it's like knowing that you are worthy as you are, like you were saying, through it all, the shame, the guilt, the sadness, like knowing that this experience that you're having doesn't take away from you who you are. And just that divine light that you are, or that soul essence that you are, that wholeness of who you are, like that's, I guess, like you're the spirit having this human experience. It's like these feelings and these situations are kind of almost not possible, like they're very much real, but then also there's an exit. Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And when you were talking about back to your ice bath story and the resistance, something that came to me then was like, where are you placing your power? Like when we're in full resistance of the thing, or like you were saying, control or trying, when we're in the trying, our power is out there in that external thing. Or when we're in resistance, the power is out there. Like, this is so fucking cold, this sucks, with the ice bath example. And then, like, can we bring that power back into self? And that's why surrender is an empowered action or inaction or letting go. It takes courage to surrender. It takes courage to trust, because you're putting that power back in yourself. And something that I notice in me is the tendency, like you were saying, to try, solve it, the doer, constantly like trying to make sense, or like you're on a hamster wheel going around in circles. But then the other end of the spectrum is almost like a giving up. Sometimes I can get into that as well. Or like the stress overwhelm, when there's just so much that I just like collapse in a heap and can't or choose to do nothing. And so what I'm learning, again, not perfectly by any means, inside of this current sacred struggle, is the middle way of surrendering into the experience, letting go of the pusher, the forcer, the trier, the doer, surrendering, trusting in the greater power, having the faith, letting go of all of that pressure, and continuing to take action, not just doing nothing, not just saying, God will solve this and doing literally nothing, but like taking the action that I know to take, which in my logical mind might not be enough to solve the current struggle. But there's momentum in that. I feel there's some kind of forward movement instead of stagnation. And yeah, I feel like when we're in the sacred struggle, we can feel like we're out of flow. When we're in flow, life is easy, synchronicities happen, things are aligning, magic and miracles, and everything's in flow. And when we're in the sacred struggle, sometimes it can feel really dense and stagnant and stuck, like there is no flow. So what I've been feeling into is like continuing to take my action, even if I'm not my happy, vibrant, super powerful self, but taking the action, even if I do feel tender or sad or overwhelmed or not enough, loving myself enough in those feelings to continue to take the action and trust that I'm contributing, I'm co-creating the flow and the momentum, and the divine or the universe will work with me.
Yeah, I love that, because I've been many times in that space of like, I'm paralyzed. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do. And then, yeah, I do find that that's where I pray. It's like, okay, well, if I can't do that, then what is the little thing that I can do? How can I make it manageable, digestible? And while being respectful to how I'm feeling, and it might be meaning moving slower or just giving myself extra space, or just in a way that still honors the process.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that really helps in those moments of freeze, is like one step at a time, small steps, and honoring like self-care as well, right? When we're in that sacred struggle, if we're in that doer, forcing, pushing, trying energy, it's easy to just forget all about self-care and think, no, I have to do this, I have to solve this, I have to get this done. And you like ramp up the doing and ramp down the self-care, and then you burn out, and then maybe you collapse and you get into that freeze. Can we limit that? And I did this last week, like I literally did all that last week. But can we look at that? And find that, yeah, baby steps. What do I need? What does my body need? Do I need to exercise? Do I need to meditate? Do I need to just cook myself a nourishing meal? Do I need to clean the house? Doing little things like that remind me of my power. It's like, oh, I just cooked myself a really great meal. Okay, I feel a little bit better now. I can do one more thing. Or I just cleaned the house, did the washing, and changed my sheets. Okay, now I feel like a little bit more empowered and powerful, and maybe I can go do something else. Yeah.
Yeah. And where is that struggle or that pressure coming from? Like, is it within? Like, yes, life has real pressures. Like, that's part of being human. But also, like, what actions, what thoughts, how am I maybe helping to support myself through that, or how am I making it heavier? Like, have I got myself around the ankles, like, like, or am I like helping to like carry myself through it and be like, okay, I've got this, through the self-talk, through maybe the conversations you have with people, through, yeah, the self-care, all of it, all the things that we get to access and experience being, yeah, human.
Yeah.
These
It
connections.
is the journey of being human. And a visual that came to mind this morning, I do my own meditations. I know that's pretty lame, but I think they're great. I was doing one of my meditations this morning. It's called Grounding and Centering During Times of Change. It's on YouTube. And there's a visualization that I guide people through of like, can you be the calm within the storm? Can you visualize yourself inside of a protective shape, and the storm of life is going around you, but can you be that calm, grounded center in the middle? And this morning when I was visualizing that, I was like, is the storm outside or is the storm actually inside? I'm like, I'm not sure that the storm is outside. I think the storm is mainly inside. And, leaning on spirituality is like the external is a projection of the internal. So the external storm is created by the internal storm. So then how can I calm that internal storm down? By exactly what you're saying, the thoughts that I'm thinking, the actions that I'm taking. Can that internal storm start to slow down, spin a little less fast, become a little bit more calm? And yeah, we can trap ourselves inside of our own prison. Sometimes it's not as bad as we think it is, or we're not as stuck as we think we are. And that, like, having somebody that you can talk to about that can see it from that external perspective really helps, whether that's a friend, you know, that has similar beliefs than you, or a friend that is inspiring, or a coach or a mentor. That's very useful.
Definitely. And it's like they can be the observer because they're not wrapped in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Can, yeah, give you from the outside perspective of like, well, have you thought about it like this? And then you're like, oh my gosh, no, that changes everything most of the time. If it's available for you to hear, sometimes it's not. And either way, it's okay. Yeah. I feel my, I guess, relationship with spirituality has definitely evolved. My mum and my family have, from my mum's side, have always been quite religious. And then growing up, I'll just let the sirens pass. I don't know if you can hear. Okay. But growing up, I felt like there was a lot of, I guess, control, and kind of the messages were like just confusing sometimes, but felt like I couldn't express. And like, you know, in Christianity, which is the religion that they come from, there can be an overarching feeling of like, well, we're all sinners and like you have to earn your place in heaven kind of thing. And I guess being a sensitive soul and having these strong personalities and hearing this firm message, it was like, no, like it just didn't feel good in my body. And for a long time, and it's still probably something, like it's still definitely something that I'm working with, of being like not kind of getting angry at religion, because from religion there are people with great faith. And you know, I see my mom and she has such a big heart and she gives to so many people. So you know, whenever I start to feel like, oh, it was really controlling and like made me feel like I now have to work through all the unworthiness, which is all of us anyway. It's not just religion. Like I remind myself, like, yes, validate those feelings of like being angry and frustrated, but then also what is the gift of what faith is and spirituality without the confines. And we can get, I do find that we can get very wrapped up in, I guess, what maybe other people tell us how things should be. But then it's also like, okay, well, how can I find my way of spirituality or faith? And for me, it's very much been through the yoga path, which isn't a religion. It's actually science, according to the yogis. And something that I've been actually thinking a lot about as well is like how science and spirituality, I do believe, like in ancient Egypt, all those mystic times, like they were hand in hand. It was never one against the other. Like through the yoga practice, we know that there's the different layers, the physical, the mental, the energetic, the bliss body. Like, how can you say that one is fully separate of the other and then against each other? It's like part of these experiences and these struggles and these contrasts and duality, I think, is for us to see how it's connected, even though it's showing us like different sides and oppositions. It's like knowing, okay, even when I'm in the depths of my despair, how can I also see how this is connected to the light or the divinity? Even if I'm in like the scum and the grossness and the human ick, how can I also acknowledge that I am still this divine light that doesn't falter, that doesn't disappear when I am in these different states. But yeah, it's been kind of like a journey of, for me at least, with God. Like for a long time I didn't want to use that word, but now I'm like, these words, we can't even label, I guess, what source, universe, God is. Like if it's omnipresent and everywhere and filtered through everything, it's like even us placing a name so we can sort of have some idea of what it is. Like I feel like it's more of like a feeling or a being or a recognition or a remembering of um of who you are at your essence. But yeah, I do feel like when the world gets too heavy, like when you feel like you're carrying it all for yourself, it's like, oh, okay, give it up to God, rest in the arms of the mother. Like, how can you just hand it all over to be like, show me the way? You know, I'm here, I'm willing, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I know it's not all up to me. Like, hold my hand. And I think there's a little story or a parable, or I'm not sure what it is, but it's like, they're like, God, you always said you would be walking with me, alongside me. But when I look back, I only see one set of footprints in the sand. And God is like, those are the times where I was carrying you. So it's like, I know, even even when we think we're alone, even when we can't see the support, like, yeah, I feel like that also helps me to surrender, you know.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something that comes to mind is, you know, and this is my belief, similar to what you were saying about we're spiritual beings having this human experience. Is like I believe we came from light, love, source, infinite bliss, which is oneness. And we chose to incarnate on this physical plane, in this earth, in this place of duality, where there is light and dark, there's pleasure and pain, there's grief and joy, there's, I don't know if I relate to good and evil, but there's duality, there's all of it. And the duality makes it exciting. The duality makes it the ride of life. The duality makes, like, pleasure is only pleasurable because we know what pain is. You can't know happiness if you don't know sadness, because the way that our human mind experiences things is in relation to other things. If we only ever experienced happiness, bliss, joy, pleasure, it wouldn't feel as good because it would be the only thing that existed. And again, it's so easy to speak about this, you know, about somebody else's pain, but my pain is different. My pain sucks. But yeah, it's true. It's true. Like, pain makes the pleasure more pleasurable. Grief makes the happiness more, I don't know, joyful.
Yeah, I feel like when we were going through all the COVID stuff, that was really, really, really hard for me. And I do feel like that in that hardship and that struggle, like that really helped me develop a deeper understanding and experience of spirituality, and leaning into the universe and surrender. And it's like admitting, yeah, I don't have control. Like, because we so badly want to feel and think that we do.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, I just don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't feel like this is the world that I want to be in. Like, my experiences and the relationships I had with certain people were just really, really hard. And I was reading a book at the time by Dolores Cannon, who she does hypnotherapy and was doing past life regressions, but then was going back in between the spaces of like when people aren't incarnated. So when they're in the spirit realms, because I, like you, believe that, yeah, we come back into this lifetime to learn things and to experience and to, you know, have this human experience. So because yeah, from that light and infinite blissful place, like you don't know anything else. And she was talking about how I think there was something written there about someone who, like a soul that had like given up and taken their own life and like chosen to um like leave, chosen to end it. And I can't remember exactly the sentence, but through her writings of these experiences and these sessions that she was having with her clients, I was like, okay, no, like my soul chose to be here at this time. Like, and it helped me to shift from this victim mentality of everything happening to me and me not being able to cope. It helped me in that moment just reframe, okay, like I am here. Like I'm a soul who chose to be here. That felt more empowering. That felt like I could do something with that. And I guess also in all the readings, it's also like again, we might not even understand. We might not be able to see the hindsight while we're here, but it all makes sense on the other side. Like,
Yeah.
because in that space, there's a knowing, there's a recognition of connection. There is no duality. There's like, oh, so while we're here and it doesn't make sense, part of that, I feel like enlightenment is that remembering of, and even when it doesn't, we don't actually fully remember, it's like, okay, well, there is some greater plan, there is that cosmic divine intelligence, and I chose to be here for a particular reason. There's certain lessons that I'm here to learn. There's healing that I'm here for. There's ways in which I'm moving through this life that is expanding my soul and growing, I guess, my capacity in ways that I just don't understand here at this level now. But yeah, I feel like I really needed to read her at that time. And, you know, when you're in those hard times, it is really hard to like be okay with that. But thank goodness for the people or the messages or the moments where you're like, oh, okay, like even though it's really hard and it's really sucky, like I am okay. And what do I have around me that shows me that, you know, the world isn't going crazy, or like where are the connections? Like how can I then start to see that although people are saying different things, like at the heart the message is the same. Like we all, for the most part, want what's best for each other, and like it all comes usually from a space of love. Like even though we can't, even though the messages or how to get there might be like obscured, because that was my experience at that time of being like, you know, yeah, feeling like everything was insane and like what the hell is going on.
Yeah. Yeah. When people have wildly different opinions to yours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also just I guess like when we do feel like there's a struggle, it does feel a contraction and it feels really isolated and it feels really alone, and it really is just almost like with that smallness becomes that resistance and that holding, because you're like, oh, if I were to let go, like I don't know what would happen, and that's really scary, and I just don't know, I don't know if I'd survive.
Yeah.
And part of that, I feel, coming back into love and that giving it up to God, or the prayer or the offering, is like, help me surrender, let me let go, like, let me just expand again in like even a small way that allows me to breathe, that allows me to not feel like I have to hold it all together, because it's not up to me.
Yeah. Something that came to mind is gratitude as well, which is like cliche and all the things, but focusing on the love that we do have, focusing on what we are grateful for, even if it's tiny, it's like that little spark of hope, that little remembrance of, oh yeah, you know, this good thing happened, or this beautiful person is in my life. I find that helps.
Definitely. Yeah, gratitude helps to like lift and expand the heart. And I also find like it's a bit with self-love as well. Like there can be, if you're in a place where like you really just, self-love is such a foreign concept and it's so far away from like your experience, it's like, okay, well, what is something little that I can look at? And I remember for me, it was like, well, I like the look of my eyes, but that was like, because apart from that, it was like, well, I wish I had curly hair. I wish I was small. Like, growing up, you see all these things of what is beautiful, or how women should be, or, all that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, what's that little thing that can start to like be the crack in the doorway that helps you to open up again? Because like, no, I've shut myself in a room. Like, this is where I feel safe. This is where I feel like I have control, where I'm hiding, or where I just, yeah, it's like, okay, how can I slowly start to open that door? How can I slowly soften into the heart? Um, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was one thing. And also with that gratitude, it's like you're starting to create those neural pathways. Like, we know how intelligent our mind is, how efficient it is, how lazy it can be, how good it is at conserving energy, to be like, okay, I've got this, and then I start seeing that everywhere, or okay, I've had this. So it's interesting in this experience to be like, okay, again, how much of this is coming from within? What is true? And it's very hard to understand and know what is like truth. And
Yeah.
I find even with that, sometimes I put pressure on myself about like, am I speaking my truth? Am I honoring my authenticity? And then I come back to, well, it's true for me now. And also I can let go and know that this might not be true for me tomorrow. But then again, that's also part of the human experience of being like, well, I know in that moment I was fully owning all of me, the light and the dark, and expressing from that space. Feel like I've gone on a bit of a tangent there, but
I love it.
gratitude.
Something that came to mind when you were talking about gratitude was, and this might not always be helpful, it depends on the situation, but something that helped me today in my sacred struggle was an opportunity popped up where someone else was struggling with something that I'm actually very good at. And I was like, oh, I can help you with that. I'm good at that. I can totally help you with that. And even though I'm in my own struggle, I found a sense of empowerment in being able to help someone else, be of service to someone else. And it actually reminded me of my power, what you were speaking about with what do I love about myself when you said your eyes. And then reminding myself like, oh, I'm great at this. Like, I can totally do this thing. I can totally help this person with this. And then you feel that little bit more useful, that little bit more powerful, that little bit more confident in your own abilities. So that might not always be relevant. And if you're someone that has people-pleasing tendencies, that might not be the best thing to do to serve someone else when you're in your own struggle. Obviously, there's nuances and it depends, but yeah, that felt empowering for me today to offer that.
I love that. Yeah. And yeah, I do feel like like you were saying before, there is power and courage in the surrender, in the, just claiming that, okay, I'm here, and accepting, okay, this is shit. But then from that claiming and that ownership, you can process it. You can move through it with more ease. But if we're denying it or resisting it or avoiding it, it usually gets bigger and worse.
Yeah.
And I sort of feel like sometimes it's usually because there's like a lesson there. Because it's like, you're not getting it. Here is more.
Yeah.
Here is
Yeah.
like,
One of my mentors, Amanda Francis, was talking about that, and all of this crazy stuff was happening in her life, and she's like, what is going on? Like, why? She called it the worst week of her life. And then when she sat back and, like, from a place of curiosity asked, why is this happening, she realized she actually wanted this or needed this. And then she said, okay, I get it. I understand the lesson, gently now. And then everything just got way more gentle. So yeah, it's like, are we not listening? What's the lesson? And even asking that, what's the lesson? And can it please be gentle now?
I love that. And I think it is so important, especially because when we're trying to figure it out and control, again, it's like all up to you. But when it's almost like, what is the lesson? That's part of that, giving it up to someone else, or saying, like, I'm open to receive the answers, the medicine here. Like, show me the way, show me the light, because I can't see it.
The light up. Sacred struggle.
Yeah, how can we accept it and love it, love ourselves through it, knowing that it is a part of life. Embracing it. Yeah, I love the word embrace.
How can we love ourselves through it? I think that's a big part of the solution.
Well, thank you, my love. Any final thoughts?
Just sending so much love to anybody going through the sacred struggle right now. I feel you. I see you. I'm right here with you. A quote that one of my friends told me once: the universe never gives you more than what you can handle, or the universe never gives you anything you can't handle. So remember your strength. See if you can let go. How much of the pressure is coming from within? And how can you just love yourself more in this moment? Thank you, my love. Thank you for being here, everybody. We love you.
And if anything really resonated, or if you have other ways of moving through struggle, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Conscious Chats. We are so grateful that you're here.
We'd love to stay connected. You can find me on Instagram at sanctuaryonline.co. I offer an online classes of yoga, Pilates, barre and yin, on demand and live, and I would love to practice with you.
And I'm on Instagram at Sacred with Susie. Susie is spelled Susie. And I have a variety of offerings on feminine embodiment, emotional mastery, and more, including my signature program, The Fully Expressed Woman. Feel free to send either of us a message on Instagram if there's any conscious chats you want to hear us riff on. Otherwise, have a beautiful day. We love you. Bye.